Hello, hello. What's up, everybody? Hi, it is April 29th, Wednesday, April 29th, at least here in my part of the world. If you're watching later, welcome. My name is Chris Guillebeau. I'm excited to share with you today. We have a wonderful community of folks all over the world who are watching right now and then watching later on the replays. So glad to see you. If you are watching live, feel free to let me know where you're watching from. I try to do this as one part teaching and one part interactive. So I kind of go back and forth between the chat and some things I want to share with you. It's been really fun since I've been doing this. This is day 18, every weekday morning, 9 a.m. Pacific, sharing a short lesson, a couple of examples and stories, answering questions, and continuing to roll out new features and such as we go along. So I hope you have been well. I've been doing lots of interviews and such for the Money Tree. Good to see lots of folks here today. Hi, Randy. Hey, Sean. Hey, James. Hey, Mo. Hey, Rachel. Neil. Richie from Milan, Italy. Day 32 of lockdown in South Africa. Thinking about you guys. Of course, our viewers from India and from Pakistan as well today. Awesome. Kiara with the name pronunciation guide for me. Thank you. Appreciate that. Oh, Eric says, tuned in from Kenya. Awesome. Very cool. Seattle, Maine, etc. Very, very cool. So, let's get to it. I've got a lot of stuff to share with you today. I want to do, I've got an audio question. I'm going to look at two different websites. I'm going to share with you about when to quit and when to keep going. And who knows, maybe some more. Question of the day, of course, as well. And we're going to do a giveaway for that in just a moment. Let us first see if this is going to work. First, I want to do a question from one of our listeners who wrote in, or actually phoned in, to leave this message. So let's see how this goes here.
Hi, Chris. This is Shanice from Clinton, Maryland. I've been listening to your podcast for about 3 years. After about 6 months of starting my blog, I'm beginning to realize that I don't enjoy writing as much as I do. However, I do love hearing so many inspiring stories, and my readers do too. Is there another way that I could continue my blog and continue sharing these stories to help women who want to start a business without writing so much? Or is there another way to share their stories in my blog? Also, I haven't figured out how to monetize yet. Any suggestions? Thank you, Chris, and I look forward to hearing from you.
Awesome. Thank you so much for the message. And if you have a question, by the way, you can go to sidehustleschool.com/questions. You can leave your question there. You can phone it in, just like our caller just did, or you can leave questions in the chat as well, which I'll try to respond to as we go along. But if you want a more detailed answer, do it there. And that's also where we kind of pull the questions that we use for the podcast. So Side Hustle School, every day I've been doing this show for 3 years now. And we do more detailed answers and explorations of that process. So this was a great question. I thought it was interesting because there's lots of different ways to share stories, right? And blogging is just one of those ways. I mean, these days, here we have video, we have podcasts, obviously. There are other mediums. There are more creative, artistic mediums. You've got lots of short form social media stuff that people are doing these days. So, my first thought is if you don't like writing, what do you like? I mean, presumably you like communicating. That's why she's sharing all these stories. She enjoys it. You can tell she's got like this, missional element to it. She really likes it. So if you get tired of writing, maybe consider a different medium. And let's take a look, by the way, if we can do that, at her website. Let's see if I can do that. By the way, I think Nigel's on the chat with us today. We're going to look at his site as well, Doodle Reads, which is really fun. So I'm going to pop over here first to this site. So this is she'smakingmoves.com. And this is the caller we just had. And she was asking a couple questions about, the writing element. Are there other ways to share stories, which I kind of just answered. But she's also wondering a little bit about monetization. So when I scrolled through this site, my first thought, like when I started at the top and kind of went through, I see all these different like case studies and profiles and such. And when I got to about the middle of the page, I'll skip ahead a little bit, this part right here, I actually thought that this part was the most interesting part of the whole homepage. And it made me think, I feel like this should almost be moved up a little bit. For mothers who want to launch a business but don't know the first step, very clear benefit right there. Great to see her photo on the left here and some good descriptive copy throughout there. It might be able to simplify that a little bit to combine 4 paragraphs into 3 and just have like a larger font. But I thought maybe this should almost be moved up. It kind of looks more attractive and it is easier to understand, I think, than the original part. But as for this question, and let's keep going. Actually, let's go. See if I can open a new tab here for her. Or maybe my new tabs don't want to open at the second. Okay, I'll come back to that one second. Maybe as a good start with the stories and such, since she likes sharing stories. The way to go with the question about monetization is, I wonder if the benefit there of mothers who want to launch a business but don't know the first step, if there is some training, essentially some kind of training, some kind of community. There are a lot of mompreneurs, and women who are moms and are also entrepreneurs and don't like the phrase mompreneurs, but that's a slightly different market. I wonder if there's some kind of training, and then the stories that she's sharing connects to that training somehow. That way there's a little bit more of a connection between the storytelling and between the business element. So that's what I thought about that. Let's see, my Safari was acting up here, and I want to make sure, okay, good. Now I think I can get it to work. And let me also make sure I can see everybody's chat. Okay, cool, I can. Very good, very good. All right. So we still have a question of the day, but I promised Nigel that we look at his site as well. So let's do that. See if I can pop over here again. Okay, so everybody go and check out either now or later. This is doodlereads.com. And Nigel, I think, has been with us just about every single day on the chat. Thank you, man. And this is really a beautiful site. Like when I first looked at this, I was like, okay, it'll be a challenge to critique because it looks so great. And it should, of course, because it's this, visual product that he's created. I think he's created it with someone else. But these fun books made to be doodled on, drawn in, decorated, and customized. So you have a few different kinds here. The Romeo and Juliet is one I was taking a look at earlier. Doodle from the Masters. So Nigel is based, if I'm not mistaken, in the UK. So they found a really good solution here with the pricing. Sometimes international sites aren't really sure what to do in terms of, do I just price in dollars for the whole world? Do I just price in my currency and then expect everybody else to kind of figure that out? Do I provide like a whole lot of currencies? That's confusing. So they've provided 2 currencies here, basically US dollars and UK pounds from Amazon. Really clear benefits, very descriptive. You can click to read more. Buy now at your local Amazon store, which I thought was interesting. You can click, whichever country you are based at. And then down here, there's a video. I won't play the video since it might crash everything, but the video is good. So actually, there's a lot about this that I really liked. And let me scroll back up and see if I can. Click another tab now, if that will work. Okay, it does, good. And here's the About page, which is always really important. Mission statement here, we believe that everybody needs a little space or personal creativity in their lives. Goes on, and here you can see an illustration of Nigel. Hey, Nigel, what's up? And Debbie, outreach and engagement. So Nigel, I thought this was really cool. I actually don't have a whole lot to suggest. I went, let me see if I can show you this. I went to place my own order, which you can see here for Romeo and Juliet. So I ordered that, and so I'll look forward to getting that in a few days, whenever that comes. And then just briefly before we move on, I just thought of a couple things. So there's an email sign up at the bottom, but it's all the way down here at the bottom. And so to me, it seems like this is a kind of a low priority. If I think about it as a user, like of all the other things that Nigel wants me to do on this page, this is kind of like the last one. And if he's trying to build up an email list, which is pretty important because then he's going to be able to market future products, et cetera, I wonder if this should be emphasized more, maybe through some kind of non-annoying pop-up, which those do exist. It is possible to have a pop-up form that's not super annoying. And then a couple other things, copyright date. So down here at the very bottom, the lower left, the copyright date says 2018. And over here, a little bit upper right, it says copyright 2019. So neither of those is correct. We're actually in 2020 now. So small thing. And then with all the Amazon links, I wondered if this might be too much. And it just kind of depends on where all the orders are coming from. But unless Doodle Reads is getting like lots of orders all the time from Amazon France, Amazon Spain, Germany, Canada, Australia, Italy, Japan, I wonder if it's just good to kind of simplify that. And often when people, stumble upon your site, they know to shop at their local Amazon, or they'll be redirected when they go there. But just a couple of thoughts I had there, and everybody check it out. As I said, doodlereads.com. It's a really fun project, Nigel. So well done. And we'll do more of these as we go along. I don't want to hold up the process here. Let's see, question of the day. And I see your comments, which look very cool. Awesome. Come back there in a second. Question of the day, can you remember a time that you walked away from something and felt better about it? Like you actually quit something. That's what we're going to talk about today. Like, when to quit, when to keep going. Can you remember a time you walked away from something and felt better about it? Maybe you were actually worried you weren't going to feel good about it, or you kind of held on to it for too long, but when you finally let it go, you actually felt better about it. I would love to know your answer to that. If you got a quick little example, you can pop in the chat. I will read some of those answers in a moment, and I will award a copy of The Money Tree, which is my new book. Let's see, do I have a photo of The Money Tree somewhere? I should. The Money Tree. Yes, this is my new book. It's been out for 3 weeks. I have been on virtual book tour since I can't go on, actual book tour, but it's been fun to talk to people online here and on Twitter and Periscope and lots of Zoom meetings and, all kinds of other outlets and forums and mediums. But my new book is a story about finding the fortune in your own backyard. It's intended to help people kind of navigate this new economy that we're all in with lots of uncertainty, but in the form of a story. So you can read it and be entertained and enjoy it, but hopefully also learn something as well. I saw earlier some people said they just got the book, so that's cool. Let me know what you think. I'm really excited to have more than 100 5-star reviews on Amazon already, and gonna keep it going. Okay, so looking for some answers here. Actually looking for comments. Let's see here. Lots of comments about Doodle Read site. Yep, awesome, very cool. And keep in mind, Nigel, people will be watching this like throughout the day and tomorrow and such as well, so hopefully some more people will come on over. Michael says, your critique of these two sites is super valuable. Is there some kind of service on Fiverr that could do this for my design before I pay someone to build it on Shopify or Squarespace? Probably. Of course, you want to, the question is like, who is doing that? Are they qualified to do it? And always with these things, I should have said this earlier, but with Nigel and anybody else, my comments are just my comments, right? Like ultimately, I believe in getting advice from a lot of people and then doing whatever you want, so everybody should do their own thing. So there probably is, but I would say a good designer, if you're paying someone to build your site on Shopify or Squarespace, that's the same kind of person who might be, making that judgment or offering that critique. You could look for somebody who's more focused on user experience, like a UX designer, and that person is particularly, those kind of people are good at that, looking at behavior and how does this all flow together and such. Okay, so a couple of answers here. Rachel says, I walked away from my first marriage, took some time to feel like I could get my life back together, but it was the best choice I could have made. Well done, and thank you for sharing that. Nora says, I walked away from a lawsuit after a serious accident I was in. It actually felt good to shift from the negativity of fighting with lawyers and get on with my life. Super counterintuitive, though. Yes, very good. Laura's reading more than once. Nikki says, hey, what's up, Nikki? Turned down a project a couple months ago. Wasn't sure about it while on the call, but felt amazing afterwards the more I thought about it. Isn't that how it is? Often, like you feel like, I don't know, you feel like it's the scarcity mindset or something, like I have to take this thing, I can't turn it down, or whatever reason, whatever you're thinking. And then afterwards you're like, man, I should have done that, a long time ago, or that was so obvious. Jessica, also letting go of a relationship that left me feeling small and limited, like I cannot pursue my dreams. Thank you. Renuka walked away from joining startups because they're not something I can relate to. Same. Rob getting sick and leaving construction. Lots of other responses there. Oh, Sean says fantasy football league. It took too much time. Yeah, that's how those things go. Thank you all for sharing. Great answers there. Lots of good answers. Okay, so as my biased, judging, which maybe next week we will create some kind of like randomized thing. But for now, in my bias judging, I'm going to pick Jessica Tang to receive the book. And Jessica, if you already have a copy of it, that's awesome. We'll send you another one, and then you can give this one to somebody that you know. And so if whoever wins the book every day, just send a quick note to Jed at sidehustleschool.com, Jedd at sidehustleschool.com. He will know who the winners are, so you can't send him like 100 emails. But Jessica sent him a note, and we will send that out to you. Okay, great. And feel free to keep the comments and chat going. I will come back to them in a little bit. Wanted to talk today about this subject. Actually, there it is. Daily lesson, day 18. When to quit and when to keep going. And let's just say, first of all, I'm a big believer in, like walking away from stuff that's not working. And I'm a big believer in like, if something isn't going your way, or if it's no longer enjoyable, or if you don't have the traction that you would like, or all kinds of other reasons, like nothing wrong with stopping and doing something else. And especially when it comes to your side hustle, I feel like one of the biggest reasons people don't move forward with starting their project is because they feel like they have to find, the number one best project for their whole life, what they're going to be doing for the next 30 years. And that's really not the case. You're trying to find something that works for you right now. What works for you during this season? What works for you during the season of COVID-19? What will work for you 3 months from now might be different from what you need to do now. So I think there's a lot of power in actually just saying, I'm going to move on and do something different. I'm going to choose what works for me now, et cetera. And so something I've noticed is, you have all these inspirational quotes about starting. And of course, I'm a fan of starting, but what I've noticed is, there's the slide about questions. If you got questions, there's the URL. What I've noticed is that for every inspirational quote that you see, on Instagram or wherever else, you can see all these quotes about starting. For every single one of them, you can usually replace the word start with stop. And so I'll show you, like, the best time to start was last year. A year from now, you'll have wished you had started today. And just start already. Okay, so with every one of these things, equally valid, equally helpful advice is often to do the opposite, basically. The best time to stop doing something that wasn't working, to stop, that relationship, that lawsuit that was, draining Nora's energy, all the other things that people mentioned, like the best time to stop was before, but here you are now. A year from now, you'll have wished you had stopped today, whatever that project that isn't bringing you joy and doesn't have momentum, it's just kind of stuck, just stop already, right? So first things first, it's like, when in doubt, if you're not sure and if it's not bringing you the joy, don't hesitate to stop. And yesterday I talked about, finding our ideal customer. And I mentioned for me, or for Side Hustle School in particular, when I started the podcast 3 years ago, I was like, who is this for? Well, this is for somebody who is busy. Somebody who is busy, they're feeling this pressure, they've got a job, they've got other responsibilities, they don't have much time, but they want to invest in themselves. So because they don't have much time, like I'm thinking about this, because they don't have much time, they have to make wise choices. And they have to be willing to pivot or adapt or move, quickly to change their mind, essentially. And it's okay to do that, right? One of the things that is also very true, especially in the side hustle world, but in life in general, the Pareto principle, which you may have heard of, the 80-20 rule, also 80% of effects come from 20% of causes. And so if you start a bunch of projects, over time, you're going to see disproportionate results from a few of them. And what you can do is you can keep trying to bring everything up to a level of average, or you can say, these are the ones that are really working. I'm going to focus on that and let go of everything else. And I believe, like I've certainly seen in my life, but I think it's pretty much universally true, that people are more successful when they focus on those things that are successful and such. By the way, welcome to the stream. I saw we have some new folks come in. If you are just here or if you are watching later, it doesn't really matter. Do me a favor and hit the thumbs up button. I meant to say that earlier, but I did not. So thanks to those of you who did that. Hit that now for me. That's good for YouTube. You can also subscribe to the channel and hit the bell button to get notifications when we go live every weekday at 9 a.m. So how do you know, though, when to quit and when to keep going? This is the central question of life. And, I have been using this test for a few years now that has been very helpful to me. And the test is quite simple. It is basically to answer two questions. And these are the questions when you're trying to decide, do I keep this thing going? Do I move forward with this website, or do I do something different? Your two questions to answer are, is this thing working? And, do you still believe in it? And so you answer those questions. You're like, is it working? Do I still believe in it? Okay, well, if it's working and you believe in it, you're probably not actually asking these questions in the first place, because you should keep doing it. But if it's not working, the thing isn't working, you're struggling with it, and you no longer believe in the fundamental vision for it, then, this is when you stop. Like that's when you're like, okay, why should I continue doing that when there's so many different opportunities out there, so many other things that I can do, so many ways I can invest my time, because life is short. I'm going to be more successful when I invest in the things that, I'm good at, et cetera. And so you only have to go to more of an analysis when one of the answers is yes and the other answer is no. And so that's the tricky part. If something isn't working, but you still believe in it, or if you still believe in something, but, it's just not working. Or maybe I said that wrong, but I think you know what I mean. Like your answer to one is yes, your answer to the other one is no. So if something isn't working the way you want it to, you're like, I had a vision to do this project. I had a vision for this particular idea. I'm still excited about it, but it's not working. You have to make some changes. You have to find a way to restructure what you're doing or try a different approach or a strategy, because it's always good to recognize reality and say, this isn't going the way that I hoped it would go, but I'm still excited about it. So what can I do differently? Because the definition of insanity is what? Like doing the same thing over and over, but expecting a different result. So you can't just keep doing the same thing and expecting a different result, but maybe there's something else you can do. And then conversely, if something is still like working great, but you're no longer, like your heart is no longer in it, then I think also you need to reevaluate, because maybe it's a little bit different than the other scenario, but ultimately, not just about being successful, you're also going to be more satisfied. You're going to be happier if you're doing something that you're motivated to do. So maybe in that case, if it's a business you've actually developed, then it's like, how can I, transition out of this business? Maybe I can sell the business. Maybe I just shut it down and do something different, whatever it is. So ask yourself those questions. Is it working? Do I still believe in it? I came up with that a few years ago, and I've been doing it ever since. And it's helped me to say no to a lot of things. It's helped me to say, I'm going to actually stop focusing on that and start focusing on something different. Okay, so I got a daily challenge for today. Of course, a daily challenge for today. Since it is a day, there is a challenge. But let me take a quick look at your comments and questions. Yeah, feel free to post anything up if you got any other experiences of things you have stopped, or things that you might need to stop perhaps after watching this or thinking about it, or if you have any other questions or anything else that should inform our future discussion. That's great. And we will do more site critiques, by the way, going forward as well. Thank you, Nigel, for being our little experiment there. We will work on that and develop it further for other people. So Eric says, do you feel that in general, next level ideas take more time than most other time for money side hustles? So I think what Eric means by next level ideas, I used this phrase in one of my previous books, Side Hustle. And, a next level idea is something where, I think I used the example of Harry Campbell, who's a friend of mine. He created this persona called the rideshare guy. And, a basic example of a side hustle is like, I'm going to go drive for Uber or whatever. Okay, that's fine. It's basic, make some small amount of money, but you're not really getting ahead. So Harry decided to create a blog and eventually a resource, a podcast, a book, a conference, everything for rideshare drivers, because he saw them as being like this huge market of people that nobody was really serving, with like different information and support and coaching, et cetera. This is now a $1 million business. In fact, it might even be multi-million. He's got 8 employees, in LA and running this whole thing. So that's a next level idea. It's like taking a basic idea and going on to something that's like, here's the way I can actually build an asset from it. So that's what Eric means by that, I think. Do I think they take more time? Sometimes they take the same amount of time because, or even less time, because you're so excited about it, because you're like, I found this winning formula there. It's flowing well. What I'm doing is working. Therefore, it encourages me to spend more time on it. So it just depends. Now, obviously, to like build out that whole community for Harry in that example, that took a lot of time. But just the basic part of the idea of like, how can I create a resource for rideshare drivers? That's not that difficult to start with, and then build, block by block from there. Kate says, I love the rideshare guy. Yeah, he's a really nice guy, actually. He gave me a ride once, which I thought was kind of meta. Like, he drove me from Anaheim to LA. Christine says, Chris, if I answer yes to both questions but have trouble with procrastinating on moving forward, I think that's a different problem. I think that is a different challenge. So I will make a note. We will do a whole episode about procrastination. And we talked about it a little bit last week, I think, but not as a whole thing. So we will do more on that soon. And people actually in the chat had a lot of different responses to that in terms of, setting some achievable goals, in terms of like doing the thing that you're procrastinating on first before you do other stuff, and some more detailed stuff than that. But we will come back to that. I'm just going to scroll a little bit. I got to do the daily challenge here, running out of time. I've only forgotten it one day, which is good. By the way, today is Wednesday, April 29th. Tomorrow is Thursday, will be our normal program. And this Friday, for the first time since I started, we will not have the program on Friday morning because I'm doing a 3-hour block of interviews all across Canada. I'm doing them remotely, of course, but I'm talking to CBC in Canada, various stations, all on Friday morning. So we will not do the program, but I will come back and resume again on Monday, and I'll post something about that as well. I see some more things that people have left I walked away from that I missed earlier. It's good to see these things. Just remember, you guys, there is power in walking away from stuff. There is a power in saying, this isn't my thing. I feel like most successful people have done that a lot. And you always hear these statistics about, the number of small businesses that fail. And they present this argument like, 40% or whatever the number is of small businesses are going to fail within the first 5 years. And I always think, well, that doesn't give me any information, because what percentage of those, were people who did something for a while and it worked for a while and they stopped and they started doing something else? Or, maybe it stopped working, but it was successful for the first 3 years and then they transitioned to something else. It doesn't really tell you much when you hear that people, businesses fail. All right. Daily challenge coming up. Let's see. Okay, let's do that. Daily challenge, always kind of connects. Well, sometimes it does, sometimes it doesn't, to what I'm talking about. I want to encourage you to cancel at least one meeting or appointment on your calendar. Often we make appointments for the future without really considering how we're going to feel when that time comes. So here's another little tip that I've been trying to live by. When somebody asks you to do something, or you have an opportunity to commit to a meeting or an appointment or a call or whatever it is, and it's far in the future, you're often likely to say yes just because it is far in the future. And then, like, when that time arrives, you're like, actually, I don't want to do this. And so, well, there's two things, actually. The first thing is, like, regularly go through your calendar and, take stuff off that you're like, do I need to do that? Do I have to do that? Maybe there's another way to do that. I can just kind of clear that. But then also, when you start thinking about, when you start evaluating requests and opportunities for your time and such, even if they're far in the future, start thinking as if they are tomorrow. And say, if this person or this opportunity came my way, to spend time in this particular fashion tomorrow, would I say yes? And if the answer is yes, then great, you commit to it. But if the answer is no, I don't think I want to do that tomorrow, then maybe you actually don't want to do it 3 weeks from now or 2 months from now or whatever the time period is. So my challenge to you is to cancel at least one thing in your calendar, save that time, use it for yourself, use it to do something toward your side hustle, toward whatever you're trying to build during this, coronavirus season. Because my hope, as I've said a couple of times, my hope is that we can use this time for good. We can use this time to come out of it and say, wow, 2020 was a year we could skip in a lot of ways. But at the same time, that disruption, that disorder brought some meaning to my life that I wouldn't have had otherwise. Or it helped me to stop procrastinating, like Christine mentioned, or it helped me to move forward on something that I've been holding back on. It helped me to stop doing something that I shouldn't be doing. And I'm actually, much better off now at the end of this than I was at the beginning. That's my hope for myself and for all of you. Jeremy says, I will cancel my YouTube Live with Chris Guillebeau this Friday. Great. I'm going to cancel it too. Let's all cancel it this Friday, but let's come back on Monday. Okay. So tomorrow's good, not Friday, back on Monday. And Niji, if I'm saying that right, says, I'm stuck in the second week of side hustle. I have an idea for a physical product, but it needs at least some time and money to spend on. I'm not sure if I should go with it. Can you please advise? So, Niji, we can talk about that in a future episode. It will help if you can give us some more context, like what is the physical product, what is the benefit that that product provides, et cetera, because physical products can be quite broad, but I'm happy to talk about that. Awesome. Looking forward to seeing you on CBC. Yeah, this one is CBC radio, actually, but it's across the country, so different provinces and such. And some of them are live and some of them are recorded, so I don't know exactly when they're coming out, but it will be fun. Yes, awesome. Okay, you guys are amazing. Let me know if there's anything final. Otherwise, I hope to see you again tomorrow. Thank you for the thumbs up. Thank you for sharing. Thank you for being you. And thank you for working on something that matters. And I hope that you keep your head up today. And if something is discouraging, well, that's life. Like, I know that it's like there's a lot of stuff to be discouraged about right now. I never want to be like rah, like be happy all the time. But I just try to have for myself some perspective and say, okay, some things suck, but other things, like the few things that are within my limited control, I want to use the time well. And so I thank you for spending your time with me today. I hope it was a good time. And Christine canceled something for today. Good work. Yay. Way to go. If you're watching later, I hope you have a good day wherever you are in the world. And let's come back and do this tomorrow. Thanks, everyone.